Zoom record. Okay, awesome. All right, let me continue to share my screen. For those of you who are just joining, we just got started, so welcome. We are going through what our goals are for today's session, and we're going to be walking through that in a bit. If you have questions, feel free to put that in the chat, and at the end, I would be able to answer all of the questions that you're asking, okay? All right. Great. Okay. All right, today, what are the goals that we want to achieve for today? Number one, I want to give you a high-level understanding of data privacy and its importance. Some of you have been hearing about data privacy and you're like, what does it mean? What does it entail? I'm going to be talking about that in a very practical form. The other thing that I'm going to be talking about is the evolution of AI and data privacy. So for those of you, you may also have heard that you may have heard about AI. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. You're hearing things like ChatGPT and all of that. We're going to be talking about that and how that relates to data privacy. The next thing we're going to be talking about is data privacy and GRC. I know that having met with some of you, on one-on-one calls, you talked about that. Some of you are already doing something like this in your organization, but we're going to go lightly into it to understand what it takes. Then we're going to be going into the holy grail, okay? Career opportunities, career path in data privacy. Like I said in my introduction, you need no IT background for this. You need no tech background for this. I came in with no knowledge, no experience, but attended a webinar like you. One day I stumbled into a webinar like this, about 7 years ago. And this is how I really started data privacy and working, in one of the biggest tech firms here in California today. All right. And then the next thing is what you all want to hear. How do I launch my career in data privacy? How do I even get in? What does it take? Okay. So we are going to make sure that you get through all of that and that you're able to, get all the things that you need. All right. So we're going to do just a little interaction. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Here, we're going to say, so we're going to get practical, okay? Data privacy is all about data at the end of the day. Now, let's just do a little exercise because I wanted us to do a little exercise as we go on. For some of you who joined the call, I saw some of the emails. The thing about data privacy is about not just collecting data, but making sense of data. Now, hold on, it doesn't get harder, it doesn't get complicated, okay? For example, just from your email address, I can tell a bit of information about you by not knowing you. Even if I don't know you, I don't know where you live, I don't know where you come from. By your email address, there's a couple things I can deduce about you, right? A couple things that I can deduce about you is if you have a Yahoo email, for example. I know you are not a Gen Z person. I know I can tell about the time when you were, I can predict your age to a large extent. Yeah. If you are feeling that, just give me a thumbs up. Feel free to give me a thumbs up or say in the chat. Or I can even tell, what your background might look like. I can tell that you were in those days of, cyber cafe. You probably opened your, You probably opened your email in a cyber cafe of those days where there weren't a lot of computers and all of that. Now, let's do something. We're going to do a practical exercise. And I want you all to be really, really, because this is, we're getting started. We've already started class, yeah? Now, as you look at my screen, we're going to do a quick exercise. And I want you to type in the chat because I'm going to be asking a question. All right. And I want you to type in the chat. And this is going to give us a segue into data privacy. All right. Now, when you look at this chart, for example, this shows the data profile of somebody's steps. How many of us have Apple Watches or fitness watches? How many of us have that or have used it at some point? Let me know in the chat. How many of us have used an Apple Watch or a fitness device in time past that tracks your steps? Okay, looks like some of us have done that. Now, what this profile is showing you the number of somebody's steps from 3 a.m. in the morning to 1 a.m. basically the next morning, okay? So what you see on the vertical side is the number of steps that they take. What you see in the horizontal side is the time of day, okay? So at 3 a.m., this person doesn't seem to have a lot of steps. Their steps are really low. At 5 a.m., not so much. When it starts to get to 6 a.m., their steps increase to over 5,000 steps, okay? At 7 a.m., it's less than 1,000, and you can see it going and going like that. Now, let's do a quick practical experiment here because we're going to get into what data privacy is just by this conversation. What can you deduce from this person's profile? What can you tell about this person? You don't know them, obviously. You don't know their name. You don't know where they live. All you just know is that they have all of these steps. So I'm going to be asking you a few questions and you're going to be telling me if it's this or that, okay? All right. So when we look at this person, number one, would you say this person is a morning person or a night person? Morning person or night person? In the chat. Morning person or night person? What do you think? Okay, people are saying morning person. I love it. Yeah, we have smart people on the call. That's amazing. Okay. Why would you say this person is a morning person? Just put it in the chat again. Or maybe we can, let me see if we can unmute people. Let me give you the chance to talk, and feel free to unmute yourself. So most people are saying is a morning person because of more activities. I like that. More activities. Okay, excellent. The person starts their day around 5:30 a.m. I love it. All right. What do you think? How would you describe this person? Would you say that they were athletic? Would you say that they were fit? Would you say that they weren't really, they're not people really who work out? Would you say they are more people who work out, who are athletic? What would you say about their physical nature? Are you saying they're more athletic or they are less athletic? More athletic or less athletic? Put in the chat. Okay. Janelle says this person is athletic. I love it. People say this person is fit, right? Because you feel like they're exercising. I love it. I love it. They're more athletic. Okay. Good. All right. Okay. I see in the chat that everyone's saying they are more athletic. Okay. What else can you deduce from this person? Would you say they were older or they were younger? Would you say this person is an older person or a younger person? Oh, I love, okay, look at that. Victor, you're bringing a good perspective. You said in Lagos, Nigeria, it may not necessarily be that they were athletic. It may be the man. They have to walk in the morning. Well, yeah, you're right. If they were living in certain rural areas, they may have to walk. I like that perspective. Okay, would you say they were younger or they were older? Olusheyi says they were younger. Okay, somebody said age irrespective. Okay. Somebody said, most people are saying younger. I love it. I love the interaction. All right. One more question. Would you say that they were busy people? Just looking at their day, would you say that they were busy people or they were not so busy people, or they are not so busy people? And what kind of career would you say they do? Would you say that they are office people? Would you say that they are business people? Would you say that they are people that work during the day? What would you say about this kind of person? I like that. They are more office people. Yeah. Why do you say they are more office people? Why do you say they are more office people? Why do you say they are more office people? Because they have, I like that. They have less steps during the day. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, I love it. Now, let's go a bit further, okay? We're going to take this just a bit further. Do you know that if I give you some additional information about this person, you can deduce more? So now, all of the information that you are deducing is just based on what you're seeing. Just this data, right? Just this one piece of data. But if I were to bring other aspects of their lives, you may even identify exactly who this person is potentially, but we're not going to go deep into that. But let's do a few exercises, okay? What if I told you that this person went to Starbucks in the morning? What if I told you this person went to Starbucks by 7 a.m.? What part of the world do you think they would live in? Estimates. What part of the world do you think that they will not live in? If I told you they went to Starbucks in the morning, what part of the world do you think they would live in? I love it. I love it. I love it. They are definitely not in Nigeria. They are in the United States. Okay. What if I told you they were going to Sweet Sensation? What if I told you they went to Sweet Sensation for lunch? Ah, I see my Nigerian people. All right, they were definitely in Lagos. All right, all right, all right. Now, the point that I'm trying to help you understand here, I love it. You guys are amazing. Like, give yourself a hand. I love you guys. Very interactive audience. I love you guys already, and I think we're going to make a good team, okay? All right, so what I want to say here is, what you are seeing here, as you know, as mundane as it may seem, this is how companies take pieces of data and use that to predict the kind of person you are, and then use that to serve you advertisements. And in many cases, they also use that to make a certain profile or information about you. So, for example, if a company like Pepsi, for example, wants to serve me advert, they don't need to know my house. They don't need to know the country I live in. They just need to know some of my activities that's been collected by other companies that I interact with, right? So that's why, for example, there's sometimes where you are talking to a friend on the phone, you're telling them about going on a vacation. The next thing you know is on your YouTube, on your Instagram, you're seeing vacation adverts. You were browsing on maybe just a Nike canvas the other day. The next thing you know, every advert that's coming to you is about getting a shoe. And you're like, why is the internet tracking me? Why are they pursuing me? This is what organizations are doing with data. They have understood the power of data, and they are using that data to drive their businesses and to make profits. So when you think about data, you think about data just as data just being something that, oh, it's readily available, it's everywhere. But organizations understand the power of data, and they are using this data to drive profit. Companies are using it to drive research, and they are using it to optimize their brands. Even countries and states are also using data in some cases to protect the society. So when they know, for example, that the data they are collecting in a certain area shows that there is a lot of crime or there is a lot of crazy happenings, they may deploy more officials, to protect those areas. Now, data is really, really powerful. Data can be used in different dimensions. So I like to think about data as something that's a double-edged sword. Data can be used positively and data can be used negatively. So as mundane as some of this information look, some of this data can be used against you. They can be used, to cause bias for you. So for example, if you were applying for a job, and you were applying, and you obviously they haven't seen you before, they don't know who you are. Just by looking at the area where you live in, they can tell what kind of community you come from. And they potentially can deny you a job, maybe because of your last name. In certain cases, we know that when it comes to religious activities and things like that, some people also use like where people live in the world. If it's a certain religious affiliation, they use that to deny them the things that people need. So data can be used to discriminate against you. Data can be used to cause bias against you. In certain cases, data can cause you harm. So as we were looking at that data, going back to that example, just by gathering a few more information, okay, they go to Sweet Sensation in the morning. Maybe we gather more information that maybe they are in the tech industry. Maybe we gather more information that they live in the rural area. By that, you can drill that information down to one person. And if somebody was trying to harm them, they can potentially get killed. Now, that is where you and I come in. Data privacy. Data privacy in its simplest form is about setting guardrails on how data is used. It is making sure that the way you use data, you are using data in a way that it pushes for more positive outcomes than it's pushing for negative outcomes. Does that make sense? That is all what data privacy is about. And we're going to be walking through it in, step by step, obviously in further details. But that's it. Anything that concerns protecting the individuals, protecting their data, making sure that organizations are accountable, that organizations who collect your data are using it only for the purpose for which they collected it. If they collected that data to provide you service, they should only be using that for service. They shouldn't be selling your data to advertisers. They shouldn't be selling it to people that can potentially harm you. And they should be protecting that data so that that data cannot get breached and exposed to somebody, a hacker or somebody that can potentially harm you. This is what data privacy is all about. Protecting the data of individuals. And it gets more complicated than that. You protect data for individuals within devices like your phone, because there is data on your phone. You protect data within apps, products, the apps that you open, Instagram, your Google, your Gmail, and all of that. It's important that organizations who are collecting this data are protecting data. Now, who is the person that's making sure that the data is protected at a high level? It's usually the government, right? So the government of any community or any country, they make sure that the organizations that are doing businesses with people's data are being accountable for the data of individuals. One of those, what you call it, if I want to call them pioneers of data privacy, is actually Europe. And that's why I wanted to know where people are coming from. If you are in Europe, Europeans take data very, very seriously. If you are in London, Manchester, anywhere around that area. And that's why they are the first set of people who released the first privacy law, which is your GDPR. That is the General Data Protection Regulation. And that data in its summary just says that every organization that's using data must make sure that they are using data responsibly. It's just like when you see like the drinking adverts, it's like, yeah, you can drink, you can use the data, you can drink, but drink responsibly. Organizations, you can use the data, but use the data responsibly, okay? So let's talk about why is data privacy important to organizations. The reason why data privacy is important to organizations, number one, is because it's important that organizations are compliant with these regulatory obligations. Now, when the government set these regulatory obligations, they didn't just set it as an idea or like something that you can do if you don't like. No, they put money on it. If you don't meet the requirements of these regulations, you will get fined as an organization. In 2019, a company like Meta, or as you know, as Facebook, because they did not have a centralized privacy program that protected user data, they were fined $5 billion. $5 billion. As a matter of fact, let me tell you a story of what had happened. So in 2019 or I believe it was 2016, 2017, during the Trump elections, what had happened was Trump hired a European company. It was a data analytics company to help him play with data in order to influence the outcome of elections. All right. So what the data analytics company did, that company is called Cambridge Analytica. What they did was that they went to Facebook, the Facebook app itself, yeah? And they started to provide a survey to people, and they asked people to fill out a survey. They didn't ask them to put their names. They didn't ask them to put their addresses. What they were just trying to infer from the survey that people filled out was they wanted to know who are the people that are more likely to vote for Trump and who are the people that are more likely to vote for Hillary. Because at the time, it was Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? And so what they did was they collected information about their likes, their activities, what they do. And out of that data, they were able to profile that data and determine who are the supporters likely. They didn't ever ask them any question whether you're a supporter of Trump. They didn't need to ask that. They asked other data that helped them to know. Just like what we were showing in the beginning, I didn't have to show that that person was an active person. Just by seeing the data about their steps, you could tell that they were active. This is what that company did. And so what they did was the people that they sensed or that they profiled to be supporters of Trump, they started to serve them adverts to further validate that Trump was the better candidate. The people that they felt like were in the camp of Hillary based on their responses, they served them adverts that caused, that provided some sort of like, they provided them advert that made it look like Hillary wasn't the best candidate. So they were basically like pushing negative content to them in order to swing votes. Guess what? It worked. They absolutely were able to swing votes. And so in 2019, the guy who was the chief scientist in Cambridge Analytica was like, I confess, we use data to swing votes. And guess who they came to? Meta. They came to Facebook and they said to them, what were you doing when other people were taking the data of your users, of your customers, and using it to determine the outcome of an election? And Facebook got fined. I think I already said in the call, but for those of you who were listening, put in the chat, how much do you think Facebook was fined by the government, by the Federal Trade Commission here in the United States? You know who's listening? I love it. They were fined $5 billion. I'm not talking million, $5 billion. Do you know what it means for a company to lose $5 billion because they did not have a data privacy program? That company started from maybe like 20 people building their data privacy program, and they had to build it all the way to over 700 people, almost over 1,000 today, to make sure that they built a privacy program. Any company that wants to make sure that they are not getting fined, any company that wants to make sure that they are in the good books of the government must do data privacy, as long as they're collecting data. What that means is you and I, we're going to have jobs for a very long period of time, because guess what? Companies will always be using data, and companies will always have to comply with regulatory obligations. The next thing is public trust and reputation. As a result of that, some people shut down their Facebook accounts, right? Some people didn't trust that Facebook would protect their data anymore. Any company that wants to do business long-term will be thinking about trust and reputation. For example, the other day, Sephora, the makeup company, because you think this is all just for bigger companies. No, even the makeup company, Sephora, was fined millions of dollars for not doing their privacy program right. And so when people start to hear all these things about organization, it doesn't allow them trust to do business. Even in certain cases, investors would not want to do business with a company that's not being accountable or responsible with data. And talk about business efficiency and innovation. You all are hearing about AI, you're hearing about ChatGPT. What that means is there is so much more data that's going to be collected. Number one, I like this. And then there's so much data that's going to be generated. And that's where you and I have to stand in the gap to make sure we are protecting the users. We are the ones that are the good cops, and we're standing with the organizations and we're saying you can use data, but this is not how you can use data. This is the right way to use data. All right. Hope you are still awake. Hope everyone is still awake. How's everyone doing? I think that it might be helpful to pause here, because I think I've been talking for a while, even though I said I wanted to take questions at the end. I will give about 5 minutes for anybody who wants to ask questions. If anybody has any questions so far, I'm going to walk through a lot of things. So if your questions are around things like, oh, how do I get into data privacy? What can I do? Don't worry, I'm going to go into that. But if your question is around anything that I've spoken about so far, I can have you either unmute yourself or, just type your question in the chat real quick. Or if you have a question, let me see your hands up. If you can show me, if you can provide, just give me a show of hand. I'm looking. I don't see any questions yet. Okay. I take it that we're all good so far and that we're tracking. Yeah? Okay, good. All right, excellent. Okay. We're gonna keep going. Oh no, wait, hold on. I should all right. We're gonna keep going. I think I need to reclaim. Dolakwa, I think I just made you host. If you can make me host back, that would be great. Thank you. So that I can keep sharing. All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Awesome. Okay. I think everyone can see my screen. Good. All right. So I talked about, I'm not going to dwell here for too long. I talked about the evolution of data privacy and AI. What the evolution of data privacy, AI just means is that there's more data that's going to be collected. There's going to be increased number of regulations. Because AI is really about training models with absolutely innumerable amount of data. And so what that means is companies are going to be, they're going to be thirsty for data. That's what it means. And what that means is that the regulators are going to be also putting their glasses in front of them and saying, we want to see how you use that data. And all these organizations need to employ people who understand these regulations to make sure that they're keeping, an eye on all the data privacy rules. And we would also have data privacy concerns like, making sure that data is not being collected in a way that it shouldn't be collecting. And of course, like I always say, more job opportunities for data privacy professionals. I'm going to touch really quickly into GRC because I know a couple of you have talked about wanting to understand how data privacy fits into GRC. And once we go into that, we're going to just talk about some career opportunities in the world of data privacy. All right, so a brief intro into GRC. GRC just really means governance, risk management, and compliance. When you think about data privacy itself is very compliance focused, okay? Data privacy is, the reason why there is a data privacy is because somebody is keeping organizations who are collecting our data accountable. So what you have in GRC, for example, from the governance side, you have data governance. So what data governance means is that as an organization, you want to be very, very crisp and clear about the data that you are collecting. You cannot be collecting data that you do not know where it's going. So you have to know where your data is coming from. You have to know where your data is going to, and you have to know how your data is being used on the way to where it's going to. If you are providing data to third parties, for example, where you are selling that data, everything has to be crisp and clear. That's what data governance is about. And then there's a lot of things about policy. So for those of you on the call who are already into drafting policies, you understand how policies work. That's the governance component. And I'm going to be going into that very deeply in my course that I'm going to be launching. The next thing is risk management. For those of you who understand, are doing something in the area of risk, there is a lot of privacy risk that needs to be evaluated by organizations. Now, those privacy risks can come from a regulatory standpoint. They can also come from an operational standpoint. And what that really just means is a privacy risk, for example, can look like a financial risk, where if you are not implementing your data privacy program in the way that you should be implementing it, you can get fined. And so organizations need to understand what are the different risks that apply to us. The other thing is the risk that applies to you also depends on the type of data that you are collecting as an organization. So for example, the risk that would apply to a company like Pepsi, for example, is different from the risk that would apply to a hospital, a clinic that's collecting data, right? So if my information comes out that I bought Pepsi, maybe on Meta, it's okay, it doesn't really matter. But imagine if the diagnosis of my health information comes out. That's a bigger risk, right? So organizations need to understand, what are we doing? What is the type of data that we're collecting? What are the regulatory obligations that we are liable to? And what are the risks that are associated with that? And then the compliance component is what ties all of it together to make sure that, number one, for those of you, again, who are in the area of controls, controls are really just activities that you perform in order to make sure that whatever the authorities are saying you should do, you are doing it. So, for example, if GDPR or your government says you must make sure that data of individuals is protected in a way that it cannot be breached, as an organization, what are you supposed to do? Number one, maybe you want to have a policy that says everybody in the organization can only access this amount of data when they need it. So it's just like, for example, some of you are parents on the call, right? You have instructions for your kids that you want them to follow in the house. You have instructions about don't touch XYZ, don't touch that. In some cases, I've gone to some houses where they actually even put stuff on the wall and say, you cannot play here, you cannot touch that. That is really what the regulations are about. And in many cases, this is where you are also coming. Regulations are very high level. And so where data privacy professionals come in is that they help to make it more understandable to the organization in order for them to be able to implement the controls. And then audit readiness, for those of you who are in audit, every now and then, the government can come into your house and say, hey, what's going on? How, or come into your organization, how are you keeping, the privacy rights of individuals? That's audit. So audit is coming into your organization and saying, show us your controls, show us how you are keeping to what we have instructed you to do from a regulatory, standpoint, right? It's just like, for example, think about audit like your exam time when you were in school, when you were in college, or when you were in high school. You learned all these things, your school, they taught you all these things. And at the end of the day, they're like, show us the evidence that you actually went to school, right? And so you have to write that exam, you have to provide evidence, you have to answer questions and all of that. That's really what audit looks like. And reporting, in some cases, the regulatory authorities can also say, show us a report of your systems the last time you collected XYZ data, showing that you were actually keeping to what you were keeping to. So that's what data GRC is all about. Just to provide you a hint on what data privacy looks like today and what it looks like tomorrow. And the reason why I want to provide you this is because I am not trying to flatter you, but you are coming into this very early. Not many people know about data privacy yet. Yes. And the reason why is because it is such a niche field that's just beginning to grow. It's been around for a long time. The only reason why it's now growing is because of technological advancement. So before, everybody understood data privacy. As a matter of fact, the reason why data privacy came in Europe was because of the killing of the Jews, right? The way that the Germans were able to kill the Jews is because they were able to get their address and they were able to go to their houses and kill them. And so the Europeans were like, oh, if people can use people's house address data to go and kill them, then we must protect people's data. That's really how it started, but it's evolved. And the reason why it's evolved is because organizations are now going technical. We are now working from home. Everything is getting digital. And what that just means is when things start getting digital, more data is going to be collected. So what that means is today, there's a medium level of awareness of data privacy. Regulatory obligations are there. There's the GDPR. As a matter of fact, for those of you who might be Nigerians on the call, Nigeria has, a data privacy law. Many African countries that people would think, oh, they don't, necessarily go with advancement. South Africa, all of these companies have data privacy laws that organizations who do business in those countries must adhere to. So it's becoming really big. It's not just a global thing. It's not just a Europe thing. It's not just an America thing. It's also becoming a worldwide thing. Asia has its law. Africa, many countries in Africa, including Nigeria, my country, which usually, I would say that on a call like this, but you get the point. They have a data privacy law. How about that? We're doing great. Okay. So today, the other thing that would then happen is that there will be a steady increase. What I'll be showing you right now is I was looking at LinkedIn just yesterday. There is over 56,000 job openings in data privacy today that they are looking to fill just here in the United States. I know this also because where I work today, we are also consistently looking for data privacy professionals, and there is a shortage of these people, and they are paying them well. Okay, so I want to make sure that you understand the field that you are getting into. And again, like I said, you don't have to have any tech background anyways. And then obviously, like, the steady increase, and then business success, like I mentioned in the beginning, is going to rely heavily on data privacy. So what you're going to see in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is there's going to be a high awareness of data privacy, not just by organizations, but people are going to start to be aware of their data privacy rights, and they are going to be coming to organizations to fulfill their data privacy rights for them, which means there will be a huge uptick in the need of data privacy professionals. But guess what? You already be in data privacy field. You will already be a director in one of the company, or maybe even have your consulting company where you are doing data privacy, and you will then be teaching other people or be helping, companies, excel in the world of data privacy. Okay. Now let's quickly run to what are the requirements. Like I mentioned, do you need a degree in tech? Absolutely not. Do you need an IT knowledge background? No, sir, you don't. Do you need coding skills? Nope, you don't. You don't need any of those. What you need is exposure through training. And that's what I'm going to be offering. I'm going to be talking about that at the end of my course. You need a training that brings you into the world of privacy. What does it take to implement a data privacy program for a company? What are the things that I need to know? You need soft skills, right? Because one of the things that you're going to be doing, you're going to be communicating a lot. And really, one of the things that I mentioned, in my advert video, for example, is data privacy gives you a ton of opportunities to talk with leadership, because leaders are thinking about data privacy. So it gives you that opportunity to be in front of them. You need a certification to boost your profile. For those of you who may already have experiences in certain compliance areas, you can start. This is what I like to tell people. Getting a certification makes you stand out. I am somebody who does interviews today for my company, and I know what I look at. When I see people with certification that don't have substantial experience in the world of data privacy, I take them as people that are being serious, and I hire them because I feel like they can add value, because they are doing, they're adding value to themselves. Therefore, they can add value to the organization. All right. And you just need enthusiasm, right? You need to be interested in what you want to do. And that's why I'm giving you the laydown of what it's all about. Yeah. It's really all about helping companies to protect their data, whether you are building a privacy program for them, whether you are building policies for them, and all of that. We're going to be talking about that real quick now. What are the pillars of data privacy in an organization? This is very important. This is the part where you listen, because this is what would help you to determine, where do I fit into? Okay. Now, privacy operations is really about the day-to-day implementation of data privacy practices. Now, whenever you are establishing a new privacy program, there are day-to-day activities that you want to establish to make sure that your privacy program is running up and steady. All right. So for example, when you are in your house, when you have a home and you have just moved into your home, at least on a weekly basis, you want to make sure that you are cleaning, right? You want to make sure that you're washing the dishes. You want to make sure that you are, mopping the floor, whatever it is that you're doing. Those daily operations is really what privacy operations is all about. And I can give you some examples, just real life examples. Some of the examples of daily privacy operations, number one, is evaluating how data comes into the organization. So one of the things that people in the privacy operations team do is, on a daily basis, they look at what data is our organization collecting? How is this data being used? How is this data being stored? How is it being transferred? What are we doing to make sure that every single day our privacy program is running the way it should be running? And very importantly, what you would also see as I go into this is that the people that fit into this space are usually people that are involved in project management. So if you have a lot of experience in project management, program management, if you are somebody who likes to handle day-to-day operations, this is usually where you fit into, because you are the one making sure that, oh, the team that was supposed to implement XYZ, they're the ones implementing it. Every single thing that needs to be running on a daily basis is running. So I usually encourage people who've had like some sort of like, project management background, people in the field, people who have Scrum backgrounds and things like that. This is usually where you fit into. This is your holy grail, okay? The second thing is privacy compliance. Privacy compliance is a huge area. This one is a very, very it's a very wide area, because this group, they are constantly looking at what did the government say today about keeping our data safe and secure. And they are communicating that to the organization, and they are helping the organization distill or translate those requirements into actionable controls. So for example, GDPR is something that the Europeans, developed. CCPA, which is the California Consumer Privacy Act, is something that the California government, brought out in order to make sure that people who do business in California are keeping to the requirements of data. Now, usually these organizations, every single year, they make updates on some of these regulations. What that means is that they could have said something in 2019 or 20, for example, a good example, CCPA came out in 2020, okay? By the beginning of 2022, they had added additional things, and they rebranded another regulation specifically for employee data, which is the CPRA. So what that means is, as a privacy compliance person, you have to be in the know to understand, like, okay, what is the new regulation that's coming out? What is the government saying? Now, it might seem like, oh, do I have to sit on CNN like 24 hours? Not necessarily. Usually you have consultants that you work with. You also have like opportunities, you also have like sources of input to your organizations, like your legal partners. And I'm going to be talking about legal partners in a bit. So if GDPR, for example, says you must have a very good EROPA. For those of you who are familiar or have been reading about GDPR, one of the things that GDPR requires is EROPA, and EROPA is really just like a record of processing activity. So GDPR says that every organization that's doing something with data has to have EROPA, a record of processing activity. If you bring that to me as an organization, I'm like, what do you mean by EROPA? I don't know what that means. What does record of processing activity mean? I don't know. The privacy compliance person then tells you, oh, what that means is you have to set up a database. All right. Now I'm giving you guys free information, free information. You have to set up a database. You have to make sure that all of the data that you need, that you collect, is rightly positioned in the database, and then tells you how to operate like a full data flow to ensure that you are meeting the requirement of a record of processing activity, right? So that's what the privacy compliance person does. So the people that I recommend to be in this area are those of you who have experience in controls, you have experience in audits, or you've done some sort of like data governance. I've spoken with some of you, you've talked about doing IT governance, you've talked about doing things in the audit space, you've talked about even my legal people. The reason why I talk about my legal people being here is because you people also, my legal people, by the way, you people are hot. If you're a lawyer here, give me a thumbs up. People are hot cake. Everybody's hot, but lawyers, you're hot, okay? So the point here is that for those of you who also are in heavily regulated industry, so for example, if you are in banking, okay, that's a very heavily regulated space. I would recommend privacy compliance for you. If you are in the health sector, if you are in heavily regulated environment, I recommend that for you. The next thing is privacy risk management. Privacy risk management is the people who, all things about risk. They make sure that they're identifying risk. They make sure that anything around risk. So if you have experience in risk, if you have actually even people in banking, because banking deals with a lot of risk as well. So if you have experience in risk, insurance, if you do insurance and all of that, this is a very good area for you. Privacy engineering. Now, don't worry when you hear privacy engineering is not engineering per se, but privacy engineering just means that if you are interested, for example, in products, you are interested in gadgets, but you don't like to code, what you typically do is you work with the engineers to make sure that as they bring out their requirements for their products, you are also making sure that they are infusing privacy requirements into their product, okay? I can go too deep into that, but I think we're running on time, so I want to move. Privacy legal, that's really straightforward. If you are a lawyer, there is a seat for you in data privacy uphand. And the reason why is because privacy, lawyers in general, you understand things like people's rights, which is a huge part of data privacy. You understand things like litigations, for example. All of those things are needed in the world of data privacy, especially when it comes to dealing with employee data. Many organizations employ people in the legal space in order to take care of their privacy requirements. And all you just need to do really is to make sure that you are learning all the rudiments of data privacy. What are the different industries that need this? There are different industries that need this. The tech industries, of course, they are the biggest, guys out there that need data privacy. Telecoms, health, consumer, consulting, name it all these organizations need it. Now, these are the different career paths I just spoke about. You can come in as a data privacy project manager, and I talked about that in the operation side. You can come in as an analyst. This is also in the operation side. A data privacy manager is usually in the compliance side, privacy risk managers, and then you have your privacy compliance manager, which are kind of grouped into like privacy legal. Privacy engineering also comes in around like the data privacy manager role as well. So the reason why I'm highlighting all of this is I want you to begin to think about, what have I done in time past? Yeah. It is not just about you coming and feeling like you are starting from scratch. I want you to feel like you can leverage your past skills and you can transfer those past skills into your data privacy experience today, okay? So that's what I want to make sure that you're doing. And these are the companies that are hiring today. Obviously, there's so much more than this. I've shown you, if you attended my one-on-one, you probably have seen this. This is an average of what like people earn, in the market today here, especially in the US. And of course, data privacy allows you to work from home, okay? You get that comfortability to work from home. You get visibility with leadership, like I said. It allows you work-life balance. Like, who doesn't want to work from home? Who doesn't want that flexibility of going to work maybe twice a week, or, doing all of the things that they want to do while they are doing their data privacy thing? Now, how to launch a data privacy career? Let's go into that. You have to commit to acquire knowledge. Right? There is no way you are going to excel in this field without understanding what it takes to build privacy programs. And then you want to also understand like real life projects. You want to grow by challenging yourself to a certification. You want to build a career profile for yourself, and then you want to launch. Now, what am I going to be offering you very quickly? And this is why I want to make sure that you don't feel like, oh, where am I going to get that course from? I am going to be launching a course that gives you step-by-step how to build privacy programs. I've done this for the past over 6 years. I have excelled in it. I've built it for companies in over 8 industries. I lead our risk management program in my company today, and I know exactly how to build privacy programs. If you come to my course, it's not going to be theory, like you can already tell. I'm going to be walking you through, when you come into the data privacy, or when you come into an organization today, what are the different things you need to build a data privacy program? What are the tools you need? What do you need to do? I'm going to be making you understand that step by step. What we're going to be doing in the classes, we're going to be doing exercises, you're going to be doing assignments. You will feel like you were actually doing something in class, okay? And then the next thing is I'm going to help you get certified. There are tons of certifications that you can do to help you in the world of data privacy, internationally renowned certifications that you want to take. You can take 1, you can take 2. There is the IAPP, and I'm going to be sending some of those information to you all after the call for those of you who might be interested. It's the International Association of Privacy Professionals. There's the CIPP US, CIPP UK. The CIPP UK is usually the ones that people feel are stronger, and that's the one that they take. So I'm going to help you get certified. And of course, you have to read. I'm not going to do the exam for you, but I'm going to help you prepare. The other thing that I'm going to help you to do is I'm going to help you rebrand your career profile, because you have to do that. Your resume has to show that you are interested, number one, and that you are somebody who has some level of knowledge in the world of data privacy. So career rebranding, number one, is about helping you rebrand your resume, helping you rebrand your LinkedIn profile. because like you already know, the recruiters on LinkedIn, they use search words, keywords. They take that, they put it on the LinkedIn profile, and they look out for names that come with those, keywords. So if on your profile you don't have anything data privacy, guess what? They are not going to find you. And so that's what I'm going to be helping you do to rebrand your resume. I'm going to help you to leverage your network on LinkedIn, in the tech world, how you can get your feet in the door. And then finally, I'm going to help you with interviews, right? I've done many interviews myself. One of the things that I like to do, I like to put myself out there. I do interviews. I conduct interviews for my organization. I hire people for my organization. And I also, on the other hand, I do interviews. So I know exactly what the recruiters are looking for. And I absolutely want to help you, launch a career in the world of data privacy. And of course, for those of you who also might be interested, because I have different plans, what you're also going to be seeing is for those of you who are interested, I'm going to be giving you, a mentorship session for 6 months to make sure that you get your feet in the door. I cannot guarantee you a job. That's for you to, decide if you want to get a job, but every single thing that it takes for you to get a job, I will be there with you. I will work with you. Make sure you get the course. None of my students is going to be in my course and it's going to sit down and they're talking about data minimization. They're talking about purpose limitation. And you'll be like, huh? Nope. You are going to know exactly what they're saying. You are going to be a professional in your own field because you are taught by the best. Yes, I said it. All right, good. Now, for like what I said at the beginning, I told you there is over 58,000 jobs. This is just what I saw, but I know there's much more than that. More than 58,000 jobs, 100 plus companies hiring, many, many industries, and this is the average salary. And if you just type, even right now on your phone, just type career openings or job openings in data privacy, you will see a plethora of opportunities that are in those areas where they are looking for people. So what am I asking you to do? I'm asking you to make a 4 to 6 month commitment. This is not a rich, quick scheme. I'm going to ask you to take the course, pace yourself out, tell yourself for the next 4 months, I'm going to create a new career brand for myself. And what that means is I'm going to commit to a course. I'm going to learn it and I'm going to learn it well. I'm going to commit myself to mentorship. I'm going to commit myself to doing a certification, and I'm going to commit myself to rebranding my career profile. This is what I did. I committed myself to an amount of months. In my case, it took me a couple months, but I'm glad to say that it all worked out. You will not be a privacy expert overnight, but trust me, if you keep on it and you keep doing it, you will get to a point where you're like, how did I get here? The other thing I like about data privacy is that, yes, you may start with data privacy, but what that does is that it gets you into the door of tech, right? And so if you decide, okay, I don't want to do this data privacy thing anymore, I want to do something different, guess what? You're already inside. You don't have to come from outside. So it's an opportunity for you to get yourself in. Try something different, rebrand yourself. If you want to create a career that lasts for yourself, data privacy is a career that's going to last. Data privacy is just getting started. It's not infiltrated yet. There are other fields that are already, they're already, there's already too many people there, like security, for example. I say that, I know my security people are not going to like that, but data privacy, you will rise quick. You can start, you can make, if you are looking to make manager, you can do that in a very short amount of years because there's not many people there. I tell you this, I tell you, 10 years later, you watch this video, I promise, and you would say, Temi said this. It is going to grow. And even if you are not thinking about maybe building a career here, just putting data privacy on top of your resume makes you stand out. Even if you are going to be doing engineering or you decide you want to go into banking, just saying that I understand how to handle data, I've taken a course on it, makes you exceedingly stand out. And I thank you for coming today. And I'm going to open it up now, the floor, for anybody who has questions or anything that you want to know before we go, and then we're going to all head out.